Eritrean government releases several evangelicals from prison. Sources told BBC Tigrinya that Eritrean authorities have released several evangelicals who had been imprisoned for their faith. More than 40 people have been released from the Mai-Serwa military prison near the capital, Asmara, in recent days. Hundreds of Eritrean citizens who are followers of Christian denominations banned by the Eritrean government have recently been released from prison. In early January, 13 evangelicals who were being held in the Gash-Barka region of the country were released. Similarly, in November, approximately 100 members of various Christian denominations who had been in prison for years without charge and without a court order were released from prison. In recent months, the Eritrean government has released religious followers, businessmen, security forces members, and others from Mai-Serwa prison, who have been imprisoned for 18 years. Sources said that among those recently released from prison are women as well as husbands and wives. 20 years ago, Eritrean government authorities officially banned several religious institutions and imprisoned their leaders and followers. Religious leaders who have been imprisoned for more than 2 decades include Dr. Al-Halal Gebremeskel, Kesis Dr. Fitzum Gebernigus, Kesis Dr. Teklib Mekatib, Kesis Gabriel Michael Jabri Georges, Pastor Kidan Awoldu, and Pastor Haile Naesji. The United Nations and human rights advocates say the detainees have not been formally charged and have not been brought to trial. The United Nations Human Rights Office, in a statement issued last year, called for the release of up to 10,000 prisoners, including politicians, journalists, teachers, and religious leaders. Eritrean government officials claim that extrajudicial detention is related to national security. There are only 4 religious institutions recognized by the government in Eritrea: the Orthodox Tewahedo Church, the Catholic Church, the Evangelical Lutheran Baptist Church, and Sunni Islam. The Eritrean government accuses groups outside of its recognized religious institutions of being tools of foreign governments. As a result, religious institutions outside of the 4 faith groups are not allowed to conduct any official activities in the country. Even religious groups recognized by the government are subject to strict control, and their assets are confiscated by the government. Farmaajo warns President Mohamed against unilateral constitutional moves. Former Somali President Abdullahi Mohamed Farmaajo has warned that unilateral constitutional changes and disputed election plans could plunge Somalia into political instability as the current presidential term nears its end. Speaking during an iftar meeting with federal lawmakers elected from Puntland on Wednesday, Farmaajo urged President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud to reconsider what he described as one-sided decisions on constitutional reform and the electoral process. When a president's term ends, his authority ends with it, Farmaajo said, referring to the constitutional timeline that places the current administration's mandate close to expiration. Leadership is temporary. You must face reality. He cautioned that pushing ahead with controversial amendments and altering the electoral roadmap without broad consensus could destabilize the country at a delicate political moment. In leadership, there are times when you feel like a lion because you have power, but that time can pass quickly, he said. Do not take a path that will lead to regret. I have seen that path before. Somalia's bicameral parliament approved revised constitutional provisions following a heated and divisive debate. The amendments have been described by government officials as a long overdue step toward completing the country's constitutional framework, first adopted on a provisional basis in 2012. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud welcomed Parliament's decision at a press conference Wednesday, saying the constitutional review process had dragged on for a long period and required resolution. However, the changes have been strongly opposed by the Somali Future Council, an opposition coalition that includes leaders from Puntland and Jubaland. Critics argue that the amendments were rushed through without sufficient national consensus and could alter the balance of power within Somalia's federal system. Some political observers have also questioned whether aspects of the constitutional revision could affect the timing of planned elections or extend the current administration's mandate, though interpretations of the legal implications vary. Farmaajo emphasized that security challenges, economic pressures, and humanitarian crises demand unity rather than deepening political divisions.